It was one of those Thursdays nobody remembers. Dawn laid a thin gold sheet over our cul-de-sac, sprinklers ticked, and the smell of fresh-cut grass drifted through the kitchen window. My wife, Claire, stood barefoot on the tile, coaxing the coffee maker to life. I had already left for an early hospital shift, but we'd spoken 10 minutes earlier. She laughed, said she might sand the porch rail, maybe call her sister. Our life was slow and predictable. At 8:07 a.m. the doorbell shattered that calm. Claire thought it was a delivery. She wiped her hands and peered through the sidelight. A white SUV idled crooked in our driveway, hazards blinking. 2 men climbed out in dark blue polos with yellow patches that said, Community Compliance Patrol. Cargo pants, utility belts, heavy boots. She caught the shape of holsters under their vests. We'd lived here 3 years and never seen an HOA patrol. Maplewood Glen usually sent polite emails about lawn height. Seeing armed officers was like finding a wolf at a garden party. Claire opened the door but kept the chain. Can I help you? The taller one stepped forward, sunburnt neck, sweat beading. Violation notice, ma'am. Need to talk inside. What kind of violation? Trash container in public view, he barked. Yesterday had been pickup day. The empty bins sat by the garage like every other house. She said she'd move them, simple as that. He wedged a clipboard through the gap. Step out and sign. I'll bring my ID, just give me. Now. That word scraped across her nerves. Before she could respond, he planted a boot against the jamb. The chain strained. Claire's pulse climbed. She weighed options, slammed the door, call 911, when his hand dropped to his hip. Metal flashed. He raised a matte black pistol and aimed through the 3-inch opening. Open the door or face obstruction. Sound drained away. The kitchen clock still ticked, but she felt only the thump of her heartbeat. The barrel hovered inches from her chest. Her arms lifted, palms forward, voice steady. There's no need for weapons. Let me call the HOA office. Phone stays here. His voice cracked. Finger already on the trigger. Safety likely off, she noted. What's your name? She asked. Officer Graham. His forearm trembled, sweat traced his temple. Scared men with guns make mistakes, she thought. I'm going to open the door wider, she said softly, but first lower the weapon. Neighbors can see you. A curtain twitched across the street. Graham's eyes flicked that way. The pistol dipped, then jerked back. Comply. She unfastened the chain with her pinky, slow, deliberate. The door swung wide. She stepped onto the porch in joggers and an old t-shirt, bare feet on concrete, heart hammering. Graham's partner shifted to one side, hand near a radio that probably wasn't connected to anything official. Claire kept her eyes on the gun. I'll move the bins right now, she offered. Violation solved. Too late. Citation is $250, payable immediately. That's not how the HOA works. We have discretionary authority. Then show credentials. HOA board ID, ordnance copy, anything. Graham tried a smirk, but it broke. The pistol wavered. Across the street, Mrs. Patel, our quiet neighbor, held her phone at chest level, filming through barely opened blinds. Claire caught the flicker of the screen and the anxious shape of a child beside her. Embarrassment mingled with adrenaline. She hated that a stranger's finger on a trigger might be neighborhood theater. Behind her, on the entryway table, Claire's phone buzzed. The ringtone was the chorus of a summer song, the worst possible soundtrack. She couldn't move to silence it. Sudden motion fed fear, and fear fired bullets. Graham's partner cleared his throat, cheeks blotched red. Maybe let her get her wallet, man. His voice lacked conviction, like a kid asking permission he knew he wouldn't get. Graham ignored him. Sign first. Claire breathed in for 4 counts, out for 6, training drilled on windswept ranges years ago. Slow the heart, clear the mind. She spoke so softly only he could hear. I'm not your enemy, Graham. No one here wants trouble. Let me get my ID. You keep your position. Nobody loses face. The words slid under his defenses. She watched them land in the tense line of his jaw. But the pistol stayed up. A cloud drifted past the sun, cooling the porch. In the gray light, the gunmetal looked heavier, almost dull. Claire felt the odd calm that settles just before things break. From 2 doors down, Mr. Hernandez stepped outside, phone held high like a badge. Graham's gaze darted toward him, then to Mrs. Patel's window, then back to Claire. Too many cameras, too many angles, reputation bleeding away by the second. Yet he still hadn't lowered the gun. Her voice slipped to a whisper meant only for him. "Let me get my wallet. You get your citation signed. We both walk away, and this stays a stupid story instead of a tragedy." Seconds stretched. She tasted dust on the breeze, heard the distant whir of a lawn mower on the next street. Life kept going, even when a finger hovered above a trigger. Graham licked his lips. The barrel wavered, steadied, wavered again. Claire counted down silently, ready for anything if the wrong decision landed. The whole cul-de-sac felt suspended, like breath held underwater, everyone waiting to see how much longer before lungs burned and someone broke the surface. Claire never flinched. That part always gets me. She stood there, unarmed, cornered, alone, yet her face was still. Calm. If you didn't know her, you might think she was scared stiff. But I know what that look means. That's focus. That's her slipping into a mindset most people never visit. Years ago, before we moved into the suburbs, Claire trained elite units. Not just any soldiers, Navy SEALs, Special Ops, the kind of men who jump out of planes in the dead of night. Claire wasn't a combat SEAL herself, but she was the one teaching them how to move, how to control chaos. She knew body mechanics, threat assessment, decision pressure. She taught people how not to die. Funny thing is, she never brags. Never even brings it up. Our neighbors thought she ran a fitness blog. But in moments like this, it all comes out, not in muscle or aggression, but in quiet control. Her breathing, her posture, even the way she spoke, it was surgical. She watched Graham's hands, not just the gun. She noticed the slight twitch in his wrist, the way his left foot was planted like he was about to shift weight. He was scared. She could tell. And scared people are unpredictable. "You're holding tension in your right shoulder," she said, barely above a whisper. "That's going to make your aim drift." He blinked at her, confused. She continued before he could react. "And your trigger finger. You've got pressure on it already. You don't want that." Graham squinted, like he wasn't sure whether she was threatening him or helping him. The gun dropped an inch, not all the way, but enough. His eyes narrowed. "What do you know about firearms?" She didn't answer. Instead, she tilted her head, just slightly. Then she asked, "Where did you qualify?" He hesitated. She knew the answer. He hadn't. His partner looked over, clearly rattled now. His hand hovered near his belt, like he might intervene, but he didn't. Claire's voice softened more. "Let's both stop pretending. You're not law enforcement. You're not trained. This," she motioned slowly toward the weapon, "this isn't control. It's panic." She shifted her weight just slightly, enough to ground her stance. Not threatening, not aggressive, but balanced. Ready. And he saw it. Something changed in his face, just for a moment. A car turned onto the street. The low rumble of tires pulled his eyes away. More witnesses. More phones. "You should lower it," she said. He didn't answer. "You don't want to be the guy on the news tomorrow, Graham." His jaw clenched. Then, slowly, painfully, like a man dragging a stone uphill, he lowered the pistol. Still clenched in his hand, but pointed at the ground now. His eyes darted sideways, unsure what to do next. Claire didn't move. She waited. Silent. Steady. And for the first time that morning, the power shifted. Red and blue lights flashed across the windows just as the air shifted again, this time with the sharp snap of real authority. 2 sheriff's deputies stepped out of their cruiser with the practiced calm of men who had done this dance before. Guns holstered, hands visible, eyes alert. Claire didn't speak. She just stepped back slowly, hands still raised. Graham took one more glance around the street, phones filming, neighbors whispering, before tucking his pistol into his waistband like a teenager caught sneaking out. One of the deputies, a stocky man with a weathered face, asked, "Ma'am, are you all right?" Claire nodded. The deputy turned to Graham. You mind explaining what the hell this is? Graham stumbled over his words. She refused a citation. She was non-compliant. I had to maintain order. The other deputy raised an eyebrow. You had to maintain order by drawing a firearm? Who are you with? Community Compliance Patrol, Graham replied, straightening like it meant something. That's a volunteer HOA group, the deputy said flatly. You have no authority to carry or use a weapon. Are you licensed? Silence. Claire finally spoke. I'd like to press charges. He aimed a loaded gun at me without cause. I was unarmed, on my property. The deputies didn't need convincing. They separated the men, took statements, and began making calls. One of them asked Claire if she was military, noticing her calm under pressure. She simply said, I train people who are. Graham's partner sat down on the curb, head in his hands. He looked like someone who had just realized he'd been playing dress-up with real consequences. The whole block watched in disbelief, eyes wide, hands covering mouths. I got the call 20 minutes later. When I pulled into the driveway, Claire was sitting on the porch, wrapped in a blanket one of the neighbors had brought her. The SUV was being towed. Graham was already in the back seat of the squad car. The HOA board later claimed they had no idea the Compliance Patrol was armed. They disbanded the program overnight. A formal apology was issued, though it came on corporate letterhead, cold and clean. That night, I sat beside Claire as she sipped tea in silence. Her hands were steady. Her eyes focused on the darkness beyond the porch rail. I asked her if she was okay. She nodded once and whispered, he never knew how close he was to getting hurt. I looked at her and finally understood something I'd always suspected. Claire didn't need weapons. She didn't need to raise her voice or strike fear to protect herself. What she had was sharper than any blade. Absolute control. That's what made her dangerous. And he had no idea who he was pointing that gun at.